Okay, in this lesson today, you're trying to take these expressions and you're trying to simplify them. You're not trying to solve for x, you're not trying to solve for y, you're just taking that and putting it into a simpler form. So here's what you need to do. You need to know what your operations are. Operations mean add, subtract, multiply, divide. So between 4 and x, there's no operator, you put a dot. Now you don't put a dot, let me read this problem, sorry. You had 4x to the second power, and then y to the third power, and then a parentheses that was around. Okay, let me read it again. You had a parentheses, 4x to the third power, y to the third power, and then the parentheses closed, and we had a third power outside. Now you have a multiplication dot, and then you have an open parentheses, 2x to the fourth power, y to the second power, close parentheses to the fourth power. If you're not virtual, you better write that down. The problem, that is. Okay, if you have it in the packet, it's right there. Now, as I was saying about operators, 4 and x, that's times. Now, x and 2, you don't put an operation because that's an exponent. Exponent, the operation's there. And then x and y, you just ignore the exponents. How about that? Just pretend that these little numbers up to the right are not even there. They're powers. X and y is times. Then I get to the parentheses. And 2 and x is times, x and y is times. So it's all times, really, okay? It's nothing but times. So then what I do is I make 2 lines, because this can be simplified in 2 steps. First off, you write your bases. You go 4 times x times y. Those are your bases, the factors that are not the powers. Then I keep moving, don't write the exponents down. Then you have 2, and then you have x again. Now since I already wrote x down, I don't put it again, okay? That's one thing you got to get entrenched in your head. Once you've written that factor of x down, you don't put it a second time, okay? Then y, okay? I already got y now, okay? So those are all the bases in the problem. Now, let's go look at our 4. With our 4, we want to put a first power to the 4, okay? We want everything to have a power. And if it doesn't have a power, if that base number doesn't have a power, we put a 1. Okay, now 4 to the first is in parentheses, so then what we need to do is distribute 1 to 3. That means multiply. 1 times 3 is 3, so down here that 4 is going to be to the third power, because 1 times 3 is 3. Now let's go to the x. So I got 2. 2 times 3, that's in parentheses too, so you have to distribute 2 to 3. 2 times 3 is 6, okay? Then y to the third power, 3 times 3 is 9. So you see how I'm just distributing the inner exponent to the outer exponent. Okay, then 2. We got 2 to the first, okay? And that's in parentheses, but now it's 1 times 4. Now we got to keep going. So 4 times 4 is 16, okay? Now you go to the x that you had here, so you put plus 16. So you're going to add those exponents together because you had x with 2 times 3, so it's x to the 6th, and then 4 times 4 is 16, so x to the 16th, so then we end up adding the exponents, okay? So 6 plus 16 is 22. Now, and then last I have this base of y. Well, it's to the second, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now, I already have a base of y down, and I had a 9th power. So 2 times 4 is 8. That means you add 8 to your 9 that's already there. So 9 plus 8 is 17. That's why you don't want to be writing the base out twice, because when you have multiple bases, you just add the exponents. Okay, now, here's the last step. You circle the bases that you can simplify, like 4 to the third, I can figure that out. I can't figure out x to the 22nd, and I can't figure out y to the 17th. I can figure out what 2 to the fourth is. So 4 to the third would be 4 times 4 times 4. And then 2 to the fourth would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. There would be 4 factors of 2. So that equals 64, and then that equals 16. So then down here you write, this turns into 64. Cross it out after you write 64. And then this turns into 16. And then these variables here, and you need to now multiply 64 by 16, okay? Because that's 4 to the third times 2 to the fourth, and that would be 64 times 16. 64 times 16 is 1024. So just scribble that out and put 1024. Now as far as your variables go, you have x to the 22nd power and y to the 17th power. You can't simplify those because they're variables, so you just put them with times dots at the end, with times dots, not plus signs. And that's simplified. You have 1024 multiplied by x to the 22nd power multiplied by y to the 11th power. That's as simplified as you can make it. You can't do the multiplication operations because you don't know what the x and y values are. Okay, next one, we got a parentheses, then we have 3c to the 2nd power, d to the 4th power, and then the parentheses closed, we have the 3rd power, times 2d to the 2nd power. Okay, so we need to simplify this. So what operations? Ignore the exponents. Like these little exponents, if you want to circle them, that just means ignore them for now. For now, okay? So your operators, 3 and c's times, c and d's times, 2 and d is times. There's no pluses, no minuses, so that means this little thing I'm using here, this strategy will work. So we have a base 3, then we have a base c, then we have a base d, then we have a base of 2, and then we have a base of d, but I have already written d down, so don't write it again, okay? So here's the first base, 3 is to the first, but it's in parentheses, so you got to put a 1 there and then distribute 1 to 3. So if it doesn't have an exponent, a power, you put a 1. So 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now C, 2 times 3 is 6. D, 4 times 3 is 12. 2 is to the first, but it's not in parentheses, so we do not take 1 times 2. We just write 1 down, okay? So again, I'm not distributing that because it's not in a parentheses, no rainbow from it. And then this d is to the second. Well, I go to the d I already have and add 2. So 12 plus 2 is 14. Okay. Now, out of these 4 factors, I can simplify the 3 to the third. I can't do the c to the 6th because I don't know what c is, neither d, and 2 to the first. So 3 to the third is 3 times 3 times 3, and that equals 27. And then 2 to the first is just a 2. So this becomes a 27, and then I'm going to put times, and then I'm going to jump to this factor, and this just becomes a 2. 27 times 2 is 54. And then my variable, my letter bases just stay the same, c to the 6th, d to the 14th. Okay, 54 times c to the 6th times d to the 14th. Okay, my next problem, we have a parentheses. We have 5xy to the 3rd power. Multiplication dot, and then a parentheses, 2x, close parentheses to the 2nd, and then a parentheses, 5x to the 12th, y to the 3rd, and then parentheses closes, and we have a 4th power outside. So, put your operators in. You can circle the exponents and then just look at the rest of the problem. Those circled, I just kind of skip them. 5, that means 5 times x times y. Then times 2 times x, 5 times x times y. Okay. So we have a base of 5, a base of x, a base of y, a base of 2. I've already written down the base x, so don't write it again. Base of 5, I've already got a 5, don't write it again. X I've already written down, and y, okay? So we're good. So 5 is to the first, okay? So 1 times 3 is 3. X is to the first. You put a first power there if you don't have it. 1 times 3 is 3. Y is to the first. 1 times 3 is 3. Now my 2, that's to the first. Now we multiply the 1 by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Now, since we don't have x, we go back to the original x and just add a 2. Okay? Then 5. 5 to the first. 1 times 4 is 4. Now I jump to this 5 and I plus 4. It's not that hard. Okay, then 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Well, I go to the x I already have and just put plus 8. So yes, that's 3 plus 2 plus 8. Okay? And then y, 3 times 4 is going to be 12. So I go to my y that's already here, the third power, and then it just adds a 12 power onto it. So 3 plus 4 is 7. 3 plus, on x, 3 plus 2 plus 8 is 13. So x to the 13th. On y, 3 plus 12 is 15, and then that's just 2 on the 2. So we have 5 to the 7th. Well, I can figure that out to multiply. X to the 13th I can't, y to the 15th I can't, 2 to the 2nd I can. So 5 to the 7th is 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? 2 to the 2nd is 2 times 2. Well, we know that's 4, but this one we need to multiply 7 factors of 5 together. 78,125. Okay, so this is replaced with the product I got, 78,125, right, times, and then we're going to replace the 2 to the 2nd with 4. And then we multiply those. So 78,125 multiplied by 4 is 312,500. And then I write times, and then I put my variable factors, x to the 13th, y to the 15th. Simplified. Okay, last problem in this video. You got a parentheses, you have 3x to the 2nd, and then y, and then close parentheses to the 3rd. Then you have 11x to the 3rd, y to the 5th, and then the 2nd. So here are the exponents, okay, the powers. So ignoring the powers, this would be 3 times x, x times y. And then 11 times x, x times y. So I've got a factor of 3. I've got a factor of x. I've got a factor of y. Then I have a factor of 11. Factor of x, but I've already written at the x factor down, and then the factor y is already down. Okay. So don't write it twice. I'm going to repeat that. If you write it twice, you're going to be screwed up, and it's going to be wrong. Okay, so 3 to the 1st. I put a 1 there. 1 times 3 is 3, so it's 3 to the 3rd. Now x to the 2nd, 2 times 3 is 6. So any exponent coming out of that parentheses has to be multiplied by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Then 11 to the 1st, okay? 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So go to your x that was originally there and write plus 6. You just go find where the x is at. That's 12. So now we have y to the 5th. So 5 times 2 is 10. So that's y to the 10th. But we go to where we have the y to the 3rd and just add 10. So that's 13. Okay. So 3 to the 3rd can be simplified. The x can't, the y can't. 11 to the 2nd can be simplified. So 3 to the 3rd means 3 times 3 times 3. And 11 to the 2nd means 2 11s multiplied together. So 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 11 times 11 is 121. And we have 27 times 121. And then times x to the 12th times y to the 13th. And then you find, I forgot, you got to find that product first. 27 times 121 is 3,267. So there's your answer, 3,267 times x to the 12th power times y to the 13th power.